platform and meeting with much success. Today's session will be focused on Mark Pruss, my lead designer and project leader, talking about some of the new features we have and more generally about some ways to engage your community members more fully. Um, with that, I am going to turn it over to Mark. If you have any questions, feel free to put something in your chat window or just jump in. We hope to have a fair amount of time for questions, but if not, we'll be glad to answer further questions offline later. Thank you. Mark?
Great, thanks, Tom. This is Mark. My plan for today is to go through 4 different areas of the site, explore them in some more detail than maybe we have before, and look at some newer features. Depending on how long I talk and also how many questions we get, we'll hopefully get to that 4th section. But if not, and if we get some positive feedback from this webinar, maybe we'll set up another one in 2 or 3 weeks and continue going through different areas of the site. So far, it sounds like, from the admins that I've heard from, it sounds like this is a popular topic. Also, I have to apologize ahead of time. My allergies are out of control today, so hopefully you can understand me clearly, and I'll try to mute my microphone if I sneeze. I'm going to get started with a brand new feature. We just released it about a week or 2 ago and announced it in an email newsletter, but I wanted to go over it here as well and answer any questions that you have. It's a feature that's only available to administrators for now, although we've actually had some questions about whether we should make it available to all users, and it's called the Social Media Content Factory. And the idea behind it is that social media presence is really important for all platforms, but it is time consuming, especially if you're working not only on Facebook, but you're trying to update Twitter. You want to use those platforms to get the word out and connect with people in your community, but updating 2, 3, 4 platforms and looking for content to post every day, it takes time, and we understand that. So the tool is available on the admin page. I'm logged into the Connect Northern Virginia platform just to use as a fine example. And if you click on admin in the right-hand corner, the new feature section, eventually we'll move this to somewhere else, but I wanted to make sure that everyone could see it clearly, is the Social Media Content Factory button. This page, if you haven't had a chance to see it yet, all platforms have this, but it might look a little bit different on yours. The idea is that we are pulling in the most up-to-date content from all around your platform into one place, so you don't have to hunt around and see what's new in each section. Quickly, just to go through it, the organizations is recently updated organizations. Classifieds is also recently updated. Events is upcoming events, so not recently updated, but what is happening today, tomorrow, or in the next week. Library is also most recently updated library items. The suggested content is something that we are working on. It's in beta right now, but the idea is that our team at Urban or any of you would have the opportunity to add a library item and give it a special tag, which is actually down here, and that will make it available to all of the other platform administrators. So if you find something that's not specific to your community, but it's specific to the nonprofit sector or using data to support the nonprofit sector, you could add it to your library and give it that tag, and it'll show up here. And that's a way for the different administrators, for all of us to support each other. And these are two examples that I started out with, and hopefully we'll see more items on there from us or from any of you. And the idea is that you can click on any item that you see that you would think that might interest people on your social networks. If you want to preview it, you can click on preview. It'll open that item in a new window and leave this open underneath. And anytime you find something you like, you click and drag it into the message box. It'll turn orange, and it will copy the title of the item and a little bit of text, which I pre-wrote to sort of make it a little easier and make it more user-friendly. Once it's in here, you can edit it. You can change it to whatever you'd like. So it says, check out this recently updated classified listing on Connect Northern Virginia. And it would post with this whole text and this link. you can modify the text as much as you want. However, depending on which social media platform you're going to share it on, it'll come out a little bit different, and that's not something that we have control over. So, for example, it actually notes down here, Facebook and Google Plus will only share the link. They actually won't let us pass them this message. That's just the way Facebook works for now. Maybe we'll be able to enhance that feature. If you were to share on Twitter or LinkedIn, you'll get this message and you'll get this link. But if there's any savvy Twitter users, you will know that there's a limit on the number of characters, and it's 140 characters. So if I tried to share this on Twitter right now, it would get rejected or it would get cut off. So if you plan on sharing on Twitter, the first thing that you would do is you would click this link that says shorten link, and it's going to take this long link, connectnorthernvirginia.org/ et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You click shorten link, and it turns it into a very short link. And you'll see now we went from being over the maximum number of characters to being under. So all I did was click shorten link, and now I could click share on Twitter and I wouldn't have a problem. If it was still over, then you'd have to modify this message somehow, abbreviate Virginia to VA or whatever you would do to make it work for Twitter. And so ideally, all of our platforms would be either you already have or sometime in the future you'll be developing an outreach strategy, a marketing and outreach strategy, and this could play a role in your strategy, in your plan. Maybe you put it on your calendar that once a week or twice a week or 3 times a week you visit this page. You could bookmark it. As long as you're logged in, you click on that bookmark, you click, drag, share on Facebook and Twitter or whatever you're using, and you go on with your day. That should save you a lot of time and help you increase your sort of network, and hopefully every time you post, someone else sees it and likes it, and then it shows up on their news feed or on Twitter. Maybe they retweet it because they find it interesting, and that's a good way to grow your network and raise awareness about your platform. Does anybody have any questions? You could either speak up or type it into the chat about this feature or ways to use it. I will take that to assume that it is. Oh, yeah, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I just stress several of us here at the Center on Nonprofits and Philanthropy here at Urban are trying to build our Twitter followings, and what we understand to be the right approach is try to tweet something at least once a day. It could be content specifically from your platform, but it could be, something to do with the social sector or your community. So you're beginning to slowly but surely build the number of users you have, and so that way when you do have something really important to say, you're going to get a lot of eyes looking at it.
Mm-hmm. This is Wendy from New Mexico. I have to say that our new communications guy, Scott, loves it, and we have left it to him pretty much, but I think at some point he'll bring us up to speed on it.
Great, thanks. I also got feedback from Kelly in Nebraska, who's not on this call, and he said they're working on their marketing strategy right now, and he plans to make this this central to the strategy, or a large part of it. I should also say, and this can be the last thing unless anyone else has questions or comments, that Tom and I have been talking a lot about how we can better support all of our platforms in their marketing and outreach strategies. So it's something we're talking about. This is one small part of it, but maybe we'll roll out some other either features or webinar topics, suggestions. If that's something that interests you, if you have ideas, if you have things that have worked or questions, let me know. It doesn't have to be now. It can be by email. Email Tom and I and let us know if that's something that you want to talk about, or maybe we can put together a subgroup of platform administrators that are actively working on their marketing strategies so that we can share and support each other and learn from each other. So with that, I want to move on. The next topic that I want to look at is Google Analytics, and I know that this is sort of the topic that keeps being at the end of every agenda, and we keep not having time for it, so I wanted to put it second here so we wouldn't also run out of time for it today. I should start off by saying that Google Analytics is set up by default for all platforms, but you as an administrator don't have access to it until you ask us for it. And that's just because we need your Google account to give you direct person-to-person access. We can't do it through the platform. We have to do it through Google. So if anyone's on this call and you don't have access to your platform's Google Analytics, it is running, it is recording information, and just let me know, email me, after this or whenever you think of it, and I'll give you access to it directly, and you'll be able to follow along and look up the same information that I'm going to go over now. And once you have access to that, to access Google Analytics at any time, you just go to google.com/analytics. That's all you need to remember. Of course, if you don't remember that, you could just type Google Analytics into Google, and I'm sure it'll be the first result. You look up here in the right-hand corner, and you'll click Sign into Google Analytics. Now, I have a number of different platforms here, but you will only have one. So in this list here, I'm again going to use Connect Northern Virginia just to be consistent, and I'll click on all website data. Again, on your screen, this will be much more simple. There'll be one link for you. This is the opening dashboard, and it gives you sort of an overview for traffic on your platform. Google Analytics has a wide wealth of information. I think anybody, including me, can be easily overwhelmed by all of the buttons and links and options. I should say that I'm not even going to cover a fraction of it on this call because I want to make sure to talk about the other topics. I'll look at some of the overviews to give you an idea, and you should feel free to dig in on your own. It's good to note that up here in the top right-hand corner below the dates drop-down, there's a small graduation cap. If you click that from any page, this is the introduction that Google Analytics give. I haven't walked through all of it, but I've looked at a couple of these videos, and I find them really straightforward. So please feel free to do that and learn more. If you see something that you're not sure about and you say, like, what is this? And you can't find an explanation, I recommend to everyone, open up another tab and type into Google Analytics, what is bounce rate? You will get a lot of information that way. So don't feel stunted if you don't understand the jargon. There's going to be millions of other people just like you who have typed those questions in and they've posted their answers. So I think that's a good thing to know in general about Google Analytics. It's widely used, so there's a lot of people asking questions about it. So the first thing that we'll notice is the line chart here in the middle of the page. That's showing the number of visitors this is per day. And it's always good to know that in the top right-hand corner, there's a date range, and that is almost on every page that you'll visit has this date range. So this defaults to the past month, but you could change this to 6 months. You could change this to year, depending on how old your platform is. You should have data from when your platform we first set it up. But I'll leave it at a month because I think that's a good time range to look at. There's some sort of quick statistics right below the graph. This is the number of users. That's the number of people who have used your site over the last month. That does not look at whether they are logged in or not logged in. It's not that kind of user. Google doesn't know whether they've logged in. This is just the number of people who have visited your site. The number of page views is how many individual pages have been viewed. Pages per session is an average of how many pages each person uses in a given session. And I don't know exactly how they define a session, but loosely, when they arrive on your site, that starts the session. And when they leave your site and they click somewhere else, that's the end of their session. If they come back tomorrow, that's a new one. So 2.9 is pretty good. You'll see some numbers here that might seem shocking to you. And once you get used to Google Analytics, you'll see that there's, for example, let me skip two over. The bounce rate, that's what I mentioned before. It's one that not a lot of people know. It refers to the rate of people who come to your site and leave right away without doing anything. That is an important number to know. but you shouldn't be totally shocked if you see 60%, because that might make you think, oh my goodness, 60% of the people who are coming to my site, they can't find anything, or they hate it. That's not really true, because a lot of those people put something into Google and your site came up, and that might just be that your site wasn't what they were looking for. So I've, from having worked on a lot of different websites and platforms and looked at bounce rates, they're very often that high. And you should pay attention. You certainly want to get that number down over time, because you want to make sure that your site has more information and you're getting people, to where they want to be, and you're grabbing people's attention. So it's a number to watch, but it's not a number to be overwhelmed by. I don't think that anybody would have the goal of getting it to 0. That's just an example. I see Susan Sanow typed in, on Google Analytics, what data points or data categories do you recommend that we watch? That is a good question, and that's what I'm going to look at now. Well, I guess I might not answer that question specifically. I think you want to pick what your goal is. So, for example, if you just want to get the number of users up, that's certainly a number that you want to watch. However, if you get the number of users up, but the pages per session goes down, that means you're getting a lot of people to your site, but they're not staying there very long. So one number on its own doesn't necessarily give you the full picture. So it's hard for me to say exactly what number you want to watch, but I'll show you a little, in a minute how you get there. But you might want to track the number of visitors to your 5 main pages, your maps, your classifieds, your calendar, etc. So you could keep a chart. I mean, you could do it through Google Analytics as well, but if you wanted to keep it on your own, open a spreadsheet and check this once a month and write down, the number of visitors who visited my community calendar over the last 4 months, and I see it's going up, or I don't. Oh, the number's going down. Maybe I'll make sure to focus on events when I'm using the social media content factory. I'll make sure that I'm sharing a lot of those. Shri asked another question. So the user categories includes folks from the bounce rate. Yes, it does. That's my understanding that it does. Users includes everyone. Let's see if it says. When I hover over, it says users that have had at least one session within the selected date range includes both new and returning users. So I would say that that's yes. That includes people who visit and then leave. Susan, do you have access to a microphone, or do you want me to read that out loud for you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. So we are Connect Northern Virginia is an avid Google Analytics user, and we actually track things every single month and update them, and I share them with my leadership team. So we've been looking at visitors, unique visitors, pages per visit, because I want to know how in-depth they're getting, how long they spend on the site, the time, as well as new visitors. So what I recommend, and everybody can do this differently, is find 4 or 5 data points that they're interested in tracking, and I provide this to my leadership team as a dashboard so they can watch the progress of the site. Because I have to tell you, most people are too overwhelmed by the data, and you need to help them get the information they're looking for with the data, but actually guide so they come to the conclusions that you're looking for. Because if you tell them just go on Google Analytics and have fun, I think they're going to be too overwhelmed.
Thanks, Susan. That actually would be the kind of thing. Maybe once a few of our platforms, and I think Debbie and Wendy have a similar spreadsheet. Maybe you guys can send me a sample spreadsheet that you have, and we can upload them to a library and share it so that newer platforms or platforms that haven't developed that kind of spreadsheet can see what that looks like, and even use it as a template if you found that it worked for you. The other thing I wanted to say is that I would consider this an advanced feature, and I'm not going to go into it today, but I know that Google Analytics has pretty complex reporting. So you could create a report and once a month come in here and export that so you don't have to copy and paste. But I also know there's a steep learning curve. So being able to handle it yourself and log in, whatever is the fastest for you is what you should do. But maybe one day we'll be able to dive in more deeply and talk about creating reports or some of the other advanced features. I'm not going to go into them today. I just want to look at some of the overviews that are available on this left-hand side here. So the page that we're on now is underneath audience, and it's audience overview. And you could dig in deeper to any of these other items underneath audience. A few of them are disabled by default, and I actually don't know much about those features because I haven't enabled them for platforms, but you should feel free to look into it. And if you do have something specific that you're stuck on and you want to ask about, feel free to send me an email. And if I don't know the answer, I'll do the research and find out for you. Something interesting on this audience overview to look at is that you could view your platform by city, your traffic by city, and you could get an idea of where your users are. And I would say this data is pretty accurate. That, you know, this is not, they're not getting this information from the person themselves, and, you know, there's a number of technical ways that they get this information, but it will give you an overview of where your users are. And so if you're working in 5 different cities, you know, that's unlike a larger platform, you might get a feel for, oh wow, we're really underrepresented in users visiting from this city, maybe we should target you know, that market, or make sure that we're reaching out to community to nonprofits in that city. That's sort of one example of how they slice this data and make it available to you. There's, you know, sort of, like I said, an unlimited number of ways here. I'm going to skip down though to, if I close this audience button, the next one is acquisition. And that's sort of their fancy way of saying, how do you get users to your site? So a lot of people would probably find this information useful. This is where their users came from. Organic search means someone typed keywords into a search engine and they landed on your site. That's organic, versus if you were doing Google AdWords, that wouldn't be included in the blue section, that would be included in a different section. So 63% of people who land on Connect Northern Virginia found it by searching something. Now, some people might just open Google and type in Connect Northern Virginia, and so that's helpful to know that you're coming up for that, but it's actually not as helpful. So I'm going to click on organic search, and we'll see the data that's available for what keywords people were using to find the platform. Now, you'll notice, unfortunately, that 90% of the keywords are not available, and that is due to how Google works. It changed recently. It used to be more available, but it does give you some idea of how people are finding your platform. It's not as helpful as we would like it to be. And you also get some idea. The green section is direct. That means somebody opened up their browser and they typed in the URL of your platform and hit go. So that's direct. There's no question about how they got there, and you don't know whether they saw a flyer or someone told them about it word of mouth. Referral means they clicked on a link from somewhere other than a search result page. So oftentimes that might be Facebook. If you're using Facebook a lot, it might be, I'm going to click on referral and see. So the #1 referrer is Loudoun.gov. That's one of the counties in Northern Virginia. So that's actually good to know that, you know, one of your partners put a link to your platform and you're getting a lot of traffic from them. You might see something that you don't understand. Links like this, I wouldn't be too concerned about them. The internet is a big place, and how you ended up on some of these random sites, I wouldn't like go too crazy trying to figure that out. I would just get the information that's useful. If you ever see anything that's really troubling, certainly we could look into it, but I wouldn't waste too much time, because you know, you never quite know how you ended up on some random site somewhere. At least they're ending up on your platform, and that's a good thing. The next section that I want to look at is underneath acquisition. They call it behavior. I think that's a really misleading name for this section, because it has a lot of really interesting information, and I wouldn't categorize any of it as behavior. I don't know why they use that name, but essentially it's the details of where they are on your site and what they're doing. In this case, it's mostly what pages they're on. So you can see here, most of the traffic that this website gets is on the home page. That's what this is. The second most popular page, and they have a lot of page views, is the page on volunteering. So that tells you a lot about who your users are and what they're coming to look for, etc., and what information they're getting. So you could take a look through and you'll see the numbers drop off because it's categorized by highest to lowest. There's always more. I think they always default to the top 10. You could click on any of these. So let's go to map, and I'm going to click on map. Now you have some more details about what users are doing on that page. So right now we're looking at the statistics about users on the map in the last month. And I hope that I'm not going too quickly. I hope that you're sort of following how I ended up here. So you have the number of page views. That's 103 users on the map in the last month. That's 82 unique. And the difference between a unique page view and a page view is that if a user comes back 3 or 4 times, it will keep increasing this number, but it won't increase this number. So it's really unique people per page view or something like that. That's the feature that they're measuring. The average time on the page. Entrances, I think, is the number of different places that people have gotten to your map from. So maybe if you have a link on the home page, that's going to be the main one. But if you have a link from a classifieds onto the map, maybe that's another way that people end up there, something like that. Bounce rate we talked about, and the percent exit is the number of people who leave from this page as opposed to going to another page on the platform. And that is a good number to look at when you're trying to figure out, for example, you're trying to figure out where are we losing people. So we know that we're getting 1,000 people a month or whatever your number is per month, but they're only staying on the site for 3 minutes, and we really want to increase that number. You want to look at where people are leaving your site from, and that will give you some idea of maybe what pages you could try to think of how to improve. The map doesn't have a lot of places to improve, although if we found out that a lot of people were losing users on the map, we could have a conversation about how to improve that. More likely, if you find out a lot of people are exiting straight from your home page, that might tell you that you should update the information or change your photos, or maybe people are not sure what to do next. Obviously, this doesn't give you a straight shot into their mind about why they left, but the fact that if you notice a lot of people are leaving from a particular page, you can try to work out why people are leaving from that page and maybe think of what changes you can make. That actually leads to a section called in-page analytics. It's the last one listed under behavior, and that gives you the same information that we just looked at, but I think it's in a lot more of a user-friendly way. Now I'll tell you right off the bat, there's a weird bug when you click on in-page analytics. It loads and it loads and it loads, and I don't know why it does this. It's always done this for me, or at least in the last couple years, I think. Eventually, a window pops up and it gives you a link to view. That link didn't pop up. Oh, I thought I saved it in another window. Did I? Oh, here it is. Eventually, a link pops up and it shows you the page that I'm showing you now. I just don't want to wait for that to load forever. I don't know why it does that. I don't think it has anything to do with us. I think it's a problem with Google Analytics. But this page that we're looking at here, it's in-page analytics. So it's showing you a page of your platform, and the little orange number is the percentage of people who click on that link from this page. And that is to me really powerful. And I know that I've shown this screenshot to people at other platforms, and they've said, oh, wow, I'm totally fascinated that everyone's clicking here and no one's clicking there. And that gives you some idea. So, let's take a look. 4.9% of people are clicking on communities. It goes to a subset of pages about counties, cities, and towns in Northern Virginia. 6.6 people are clicking on issues and initiatives. 9.8 on maps, and that's probably not too surprising. Maps are certainly I would say the most popular feature on most of our platforms. Library is not getting a lot, 1%, and so maybe that might lead you to say, it doesn't belong there, or maybe we need to change the text. Maybe if we change it from library to community library, maybe next month we'll see that there's a big difference. You could certainly do a lot of experimenting, to get those numbers up. If you scroll down, you might notice that 6.6 people click on calendar of events. And I actually think that Susan Sano and I had a conversation about whether that means we should learn that calendar is really popular and we should move it up. Maybe more people would click on it if it were even easier to find. So these are the kinds of things that you can learn from in-page analytics. The only thing that I want to mention about this is there's something a little tricky. If there's a link for map up here, And all the way at the bottom, there's another link for the map. They're both going to have the same number because Google doesn't actually know where they physically clicked, but they know what page they went to next. So if there's two links for the same page, you don't know which one they clicked on. You just know that from the home page, they went to the map next. You don't actually know that they clicked in this green bar here and not in the orange button at the bottom. That's a little bit tricky, and I actually had to figure that out because I didn't understand it at first. But I think this is a really powerful tool of Google Analytics with a lot of information in there. This is the message that pops up eventually. And you click on load in full view and it'll open up the page that we just looked at. So the other areas, conversions, I'm not going to go into. It's really for people who are selling things on their site because you can integrate really closely and you could integrate how much things cost and where people are purchasing it from. Obviously, that doesn't have anything to do with our platform. The last thing that I want to say about Google Analytics is that they have a whole system. They call them, I think they're called goals. Oh yeah, where are the goals in here? I thought they were under behavior. They have something called goals, and that would be if your goal for your users was to view a classified item or share a classified item, we could work with you to set up custom code that would track that specific activity. So everything we've looked at is a page view. All Google Analytics tracks by default is someone visiting a page, but we don't know what they do once they're on that page. So we might know that they went to the event, but we don't know if they clicked to view an event, or we don't know if they clicked to share an event. We could develop with you more specific goals and integrate that. It is a little bit more time consuming and we don't do it by default because it does take time and we have to do it platform by platform. But if that is part of your marketing goal, it's something that we could do with you. Unfortunately, it's not something we can give you control over because it involves putting custom code inside the website. So it's not just a user-friendly thing from the front end. Oh, actually, Tom is telling me that there are tools for identifying specific buttons. Tom, if you have any idea what those tools are, I would be curious to know. I'm not recalling what they are.
I'm trying to find them right now.
Oh, okay.
In a while.
While Tom is looking, does anybody have any questions? I hope I wasn't going too quickly, but I'm also trying to fit in a lot. I'll take that to mean that I've left you speechless because I've been very, very clear and I didn't skim over anything. Like I said at the beginning, if you don't have access, just send me an email with a Google account. That doesn't have to be a Gmail address. You can actually just create a Google account with your own email address, even if it's Yahoo or something else. But you have to have a Google account in order to access Google Analytics. That's how it works. So send me an email and I can help set that up for you. So I'm not getting any questions. I don't want to rush by anyone. But unless anyone has anything, I will go to the next topic. And Tom, let me know if you find that tool. Otherwise, we can send out a follow-up email with some more information.
Okay, will do.
I'm going to go back to Connect Northern Virginia to keep using it as my guinea pig here. And the next section that I wanted to look at is maps. And I know that there are a wide variety of administrators on here. So there are some administrators that have been with the platform for a year or two or more, and there's some that are very new. So I'm going to try to speak to everyone, but I might end up explaining some things that you've already heard about. I want to start by saying and this is probably less for you as an administrators and more for you to tell other people, But if you're coming to the platform, if you're coming to the map for the first time, you should click on tutorial in the bottom right-hand corner. That will pop up a little window. I think it takes 2 or 3 minutes to go through. It will point at different sections of the site, very similar to what I'm about to do, and give you one sentence on each one. And I think that has helped onboard new users. We've gotten some good feedback from new users who have said that does help explain things, because as much as we've done a lot of work designing and redesigning the map over the last few years, we've tried to make it as simple and user-friendly as possible. It still represents a complex set of data and a complex set of functionalities, and so it can be overwhelming for someone, especially if they're new to using data, if they're new to community indicators. So we've done our best to make the tool easy to use, and we've also built a tutorial that should help get new users' feet wet. So there are 3 main sections to the map, and this is, well, I'll call it sort of the toolbar. It's how you choose your settings for the map that you're about to generate. And there are some hidden features in each of these that I want to go out. Not hidden features exactly, but they're things you don't see unless you've really clicked on every button. And I know not everyone has time to do that. It's our hope that the most basic use of this map is not hidden, that you can generate a map pretty simply and quickly. But we also try to make tools that work for a lot of different people who are trying to do very different things. So the first section here is choose a location, and that allows you to choose the location on the map, as well as allows you to filter the organizations that show up on the map. And so the default option is to allow you to choose a county, city, or zip code, which is, I think, pretty straightforward. But if you click on geography, you'll see there's actually some other options. The community map is only available if you've actually drawn up community maps. And I don't want to go in detail into them now because they're not applicable for everyone. But for example, we had a platform that was they wanted their users to be able to examine by neighborhood. And neighborhoods are not something that we can easily import because people don't often have them mapped with latitudes and longitudes. But if you want to make that available, a community map is a way to create some custom shapes and give them a name. And using the community map feature, you could actually look up resources in your community, in your custom shape. I'm not going to go deeply into that. We can look at it another time if people are interested. The other 2 features are a distance from an address and distance from a school. The address allows you to put in any address. It's just one text box, so you could type in 123 Main Street, and you should put a city or zip. If you just put in a number, we're not going to know where you mean because there's probably 10,000 main streets, even just in Northern Virginia. I'm sure there's 10,000 main streets. So you put in a full address, and as long as it's something that would work in Google, we'll be able to find it on the map. If the person who types it in gets it totally wrong and Google can't find it, then we won't be able to find it either. But in most cases, that's fine. It's what you would type into Google Maps or Bing Maps or something like that. And the last option underneath that is that you can choose the radius. So, picture a circle surrounding your dot, and this shows you how much you want to see. And it goes from 1/2 mile all the way to 50 miles because we have platforms like this one that take place in highly densely populated areas, and we have very, very rural platforms that if you showed a 1/2 mile around anything, you wouldn't get any organizations because things are not that close together. The other option that I mentioned is distance from a school. This list of schools comes pre-populated into the platform. It's a very good list, but it's not perfect. If you're ever using this tool and you say, I can't find this school in my area, let us know. We can make sure that your list is up to date, or we could make sure to add something in if there's something that's just missing. We do our best to keep them up to date, but I don't think that we update those every year right now. But that would give you a way to search for resources around schools in your district, which, especially if you're a social worker in a school, you're a teacher or a principal, that's going to be something that's really interesting to learn about. Instead of going all the way through the maps, does anybody have any questions about the two things that I just went through? Okay, so I'll move on. The next section is community resources. This allows you to pull up the resources. I think of them as point data, so that is compared to indicators. Community resources are single points on the map, things that show up at an address. In general, those are the nonprofits in your area. By default, by clicking nothing, if you just choose your geography, it will show all resources. Up until recently, that was true, but it didn't say it, and we got some feedback that that was confusing. People thought that if you didn't select anything, it would show nothing. So we tweaked that just in the last week, and now it will say display all resources by default. If you want to select nothing, or if you want to select a category, you'll get rid of display all resources. If you want to choose nothing, the second option here is don't display any resources, and otherwise you can choose a category. By default, and this is true for most platforms, the category system that we use is the NTE system. Most of you probably know about that, so I'm not going to talk about it, but that's the taxonomy. And some platforms that are here, New Mexico is one of them, but not the only one, use different taxonomy. So you'll see a different set of codes here, but it's the same idea. All the mapping taxonomies are always two-tier. So first I'll select arts and culture, and then a second drop-down appears, and this is all things that are below arts and culture. So the first code is A, and everything in this drop-down is A1, A2, etc. If you don't select a secondary one, you'll get everything in arts. You will also notice that beneath that, there's an option that says View Additional Resources. And this was our attempt at keeping the user interface very, very clean so people are not overwhelmed, but also making sure that for advanced users, there are more options. If you personally, your user, has any custom list, you will see the option to view a custom list on here. And that is a custom list that you created of organizations that you selected one by one. The process of creating a custom list is probably a really good topic for another webinar, but it's too detailed to go into now. But if you have any, you'll see the option to view a custom list, and if you don't, you won't see that option available at all. The second option here is legal type. This is actually disabled by platforms by default, but Connect Northern Virginia had requested to enable it when some situation arose in the past. If this interests you, let us know. It's a setting that we can control in the back, and you can filter for all of these other legal types. Most organizations are public charities, 501c3s, but there are other types of organizations that register Form 990s, as well as other types of organizations that might have been inputted afterwards, or maybe that we've uploaded for you. So this is a way to filter for those, but by default, platforms don't even turn that on because I would say 95% of users, they're using this to look for nonprofits, so we didn't want to overwhelm people by adding additional things. So I'm going to hide additional options, and I'll just click Map It just to show you what it looks like. So now you'll see the toolbar turned into a summary version of the full toolbar so that we could see the map. And I can point out that the few options just appeared at the bottom that weren't here before. The first is the legend of resource icons. It will only include icons that are currently on the map, because otherwise you would have a lot of icons that are totally useless to you at this point. So it's filtered. And over here on the left, we have resource list. That allows you to view the resources that are on the map. However, last week, we made a change, and this is one of the things that I wanted to focus on. I think for a lot of people, this will be a positive change. We are now including organizations that meet your search, but we couldn't map them because we didn't have a valid address. Or maybe it's even a valid address, but we weren't able to get their exact location. So that means you're going to have, in most cases, more organizations on the list view than you do on the map. But if you're ever looking for something on the map and you're saying, I know this is in the platform, but I don't know why I don't see it, check on list view. If it's in here and the last column says no, that means it's in your platform and you were looking for it correctly, but for some reason or another, we didn't have the right coordinates, so we weren't able to put it on the map. So that's a new feature that was just enabled last week as a result of a question that came from an administrator that led us to have that conversation and decide to include that. And I think that in most cases, even though some people might be confused to see something on here that's not on the map, in most cases this is added functionality that will meet more people's needs. Because if you were looking for arts and culture organizations in Arlington, this gives you even more organizations that meet your search. And you have a button in the top right that says download data. Legal type classification. Shri is asking whether legal type classification will be available in the site-wide search. It can be. We definitely could add it. It hasn't come up before as a request, but if it's something that you want to see there that would be helpful for you, we could add that there. Yeah. Let me know maybe afterwards. Just send me an email if that's something that is important to you. We can put that into our queue to add that additional item in the search results. So you could click download data in the right-hand corner, and that would download a spreadsheet for you. And Susan Sano says, I think revenue was included in the past. Now it's gone. Why is that? No, revenue actually is still included on this. It's on the right-hand side. I think it just happens to be that the revenue is not available for these. Let me click through some options and see if that's the case. Oh no, look at that. I don't see any revenue. We'll look into that. Maybe there's a problem that caused it to be dropped from the list view. I'll look into that and I will let you know. We should. I can't imagine that it's actually missing for all these organizations, so it's probably a bug on our end. Thank you. So I am going to close this and go on to the third section in the map settings, and that is community indicators. So you'll notice that when you first load the page, you can't choose community indicators. It says, please select a county, city, or zip code. And that is because we really need to know what area you're looking at, because you can't choose indicators for your whole area. For some platforms, that's an entire state. For some platforms, it's 4 counties. But the data itself comes per county. So you need to select something. In this case, I'll select a county again. And once that loads, you'll see that this area changes. Another new feature that I want to point out is at the top, there's a link that says browse or search all indicators. And that is because we've gotten feedback from users that finding the right indicators in these drop downs was not always helpful. In some cases, the names are very long, or maybe you don't know exactly what indicator you're looking for, but you want to see what's available. So in this window, you can browse by category, by geography, or by source. That's where the indicator comes from. You can also type in a keyword. I'll just type in poverty and click search. And I'm going to get every single indicator that has the word poverty in the title. And if any of these is the one that I'm looking for, I can click on it and it will select it in the window underneath. So the first drop down here is category, same category that we just saw in that pop-up window. I'm going to choose income and poverty. And once you select that, you'll see a second drop down that shows up, and that is the specific indicator that you want to view on the map. So aggregate family income is the top indicator just alphabetically, but I'm going to type in, and this is actually worth noting, in almost all of these drop downs that you'll see on the platform, but on all of the ones that you see on the map, you can start typing and it will filter and show you only the results that have the words that you're typing. So if I type in poverty rate, I'll only get the ones with exactly the words poverty and rate next to each other. So I wanted just poverty rate. I don't want anything more complicated than that. So I'm going to click on poverty rate and choose it. The third dropdown that's available, it has I'll call it advanced information. We wanted to make it so that a user who doesn't know that much about indicators can just click map it at this point. It's optional. You don't have to choose anything. You can just click map it. However, there's actually a lot of options available in here. source, we call it select source year or geographic level. So the way the indicators come to us, so the way indicators come to us are in these groups. So I could choose to view poverty rate from 2011, the American Community Survey, which is the Census Bureau, and the data came from 2007 to 2011. It was released in 2007. And the last piece of information is that you would view the indicator by census tract. And that's important. I think not a lot of people understand that. You could also choose the second option, which is the same source and the same year, but now you're viewing the indicator by zip code. The other options are both census tracts and they're for previous years. So we default to the most current year because we assume that people want that. And like I said, we're trying to not require you to make lots of clicks. We're trying to make it the fewest amount of clicks to get to the map you're looking for. So I'm going to leave it as census tracts. And I want to go back one because I don't want to view arts and culture. I want to view organizations that are related to food, because I think that's more interesting. And often when I'm doing demos for new platforms or for other users, I like to show food over poverty rate, because I think organizations that are helping with access to food, that's an interesting thing to see over the poverty rate in your community. That's just sort of something that I do when I'm doing demos. I'm going to click on Map It. And now we are viewing organizations that work with anything related to food, which is a wide variety, over the poverty rate for each of the census tracts in this county, in Arlington County. I must have left this open before. If you click on Indicator Legend, you'll see the different shades of purple and what they mean. I'm going to zoom in here on some of these. And we have received some feedback that it's not always clear what shade of purple, and I think at some point we're going to have to work on that. At this point, though, the trick that I use is I'll actually drag it right next to the legend, and I can see this is exactly the same shade of purple. Maybe when it's over here, you can't quite tell, but if I want to know, I'll pull it right up to the legend, and that's just sort of a tip. That's something that I do to make sure that I'm seeing the right one. Of course, the other way is to click on that census tract, and you'll get a little window that pops up. It'll tell you the name of the number of the census tract. It'll tell you the indicator that you're looking at and the value for this census tract. That is, the poverty rate in census tract 5101310220 is 26.4. A common question that we get about census tract is, that doesn't help me because I don't know, I've never heard of that census tract before. Why don't we show the names? That's an understandable question with a frustrating answer. There are no names for census tracts. Census tracts only have numbers. So we have yet to find any place that has a geographical name for a census tract. So this is all we can show. This is all the data has. If you were viewing indicator by zip code, you'd see different shapes here, and instead you'd see the zip code. Other data that's available when you're viewing indicators are an indicator chart and an indicator table. That's two different ways to view the same set of data. Again, this indicator table has the census tracts in the left-hand side and the values in the right. And you could click to download that data into a spreadsheet. And in the indicator chart, we'll give you a bar chart comparing all of the census tracts, or could be zip codes, on one chart. And this is the indicator rate at the bottom. So again, most people don't have much a sense of what census tract is what, but with a zip code, and if you were looking at a small enough area, you might see the 3 zip codes in your area, and that would give you a good idea of where they compare to each other in the particular indicator, for example, poverty rate. The last features that I want to point out on the map are in the bottom right. The link to this map feature, I think this is a really powerful feature that probably most people don't understand right away. When you click on this feature, it gives you a direct link. That is, it has this funny number at the end. This is just a unique ID. you could take this link and send it, copy and paste it in an email or on Facebook or on Twitter, which you can actually do with just one click over here. This allows you to share. This is not just showing someone the page where you can make a map. This is showing someone this map. So if someone clicks on this unique link, they will get Connect Northern Virginia map, and we will pre-select Arlington County, food, agriculture, and nutrition, and we'll pre-select poverty rate. And so they'll see a little loading bar while we pre-select it for them, and it'll show them the map. So they don't have to do anything. And just to give you an idea, other than sharing a map, so maybe you have a colleague who's interested in poverty rates, you could share this link with them. Another way to do that is to create a link that you think might be helpful to early childhood educators. Create that map for them, save this link, and even, maybe you could take a screenshot and create a map gallery for early childhood educators. And you could do that all by yourself with the map and the permalink and the custom pages. I was going to talk about custom pages next, but I think we're running out of time. But a custom page would allow you to create that page, add that image, and link it to this map. So that allows you to create a lot of new functionality. And maybe we can do a webinar just how to do that if somebody was interested. The last two buttons here, and then I'll open it up for questions. Print and export. That allows you to print, or you could choose to print as PDF. Printing maps is a little bit tricky. We've done a lot of work to get them to be as good as we can, but still trying on different browsers, you might end up with a slightly different map. But we've done the best we can, and you should be able to export a map, and you could hand that to someone. You could use it as a flyer. You could input it into a report that you're doing. The last two options are Facebook and Twitter, and that would allow you to share the direct link that I was just talking about, but in one click, it allows you to share it right on Facebook or right on Twitter. And it will open it up, and it'll have that link there, and you can type in a description. Check out this map on food-related organizations and poverty rates on the platform. And that's, somebody will click that, and that jumps them straight to the endpoint. And then, of course, the one hope in using a map as marketing or outreach is that once they're here, they would see edit or update map settings, and they begin to explore, and they can see how you build the map because all these things have already been selected for them, and they can say, oh, maybe I want to see other types of organizations, and they'll click around and they can begin to explore themselves. I think that's a really good opportunity for marketing and outreach of the platform. Now that I've talked my throat dry, does anybody have any questions about any of the features that I just went over?
Excuse me. A telephone man coming to the front door because he's going to hook up
Patrice's phone.
Phone. Yeah, so
Leah,
he does come
is
here.
that Leah talking?
Send him on down that way.
Leah, maybe you don't know that your mic is not muted.
What?
I'm going to mute Leah for a minute. Does anybody have any questions about the map?
This is great, Mark. I haven't been on the map lately, and actually our communications guy, Scott, was just working on a map, and I don't think he knows how quickly he can send the map to Facebook and Twitter. So that's terrific.
Great. I'm actually recording this whole thing, and so once I'll upload it to YouTube, and you could share this with him so he can walk through the he can listen to what I just went through.
Of course, you could always run the URL through Bitly or another URL shortener if you wanted to put it in Twitter as well.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Great. Now, how would you do that? You don't have time. I'll talk to you afterwards about how to do that. If you click on the Facebook or Twitter, though, it'll give the actual URL.
It'll give the actual URL. I haven't gone that extra step to shorten it with Bitly, although I could do that. We just started implementing Bitly just in the last couple of weeks, so I could go back and use that here.
Okay, great. That'd be great. Thank you.
So I think we had set this to be an hour, so I apologize if anyone has to go and if I ended up cutting you short, I'm going to unmute you, Leah, in case you have any questions. So if you do have questions, feel free to stay on. I'm okay with staying on for another few minutes if you have time. I'm not going to continue on to another topic, though. I just want to leave it open for question and answer. Please let me know if you found this useful, if you want other topics, if you want to have another dive into the platform session, and we can explore events and custom pages and the other modules that we haven't looked at yet.
Yeah, your feedback would be very helpful for better or worse. We're always trying to improve, so I'd like to hear from you. Thank you.
So thank you to anyone who has
Thank
to go. And if you have any questions, you can stay on and ask. I'll stay on for another minute.
Doesn't sound like there are any, Mark.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like there are any questions. Okay, so if you're still on, thank you for your time.
Okay, great job, Mark.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.